Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to SheRises, Amplify, and Thrive live speaker series, where we have the best spiritual masters, healers, visionaries, thought leaders, all sorts of gurus from all around the world coming to just share their profound wisdom and messages with everyone all around the world. And it is amazing. And a huge thank you because every donation goes to the She Rises Foundation, in which we use that for scholarships and funding and startup to really help women who are in underserved and marginalized communities be able to just really have that economic independence and really rise up into their leadership and their entrepreneurship. So thank you to everyone. And I'm so excited to have everyone here on this transformative journey today. It's going to be so much fun. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kelly Boyer, and I am your host today. And today, my guest is Jules Arnes. I'm so excited to be interviewing her. And she is the founder of BioQuantum. She blends 30 plus years of healing with quantum science to help others unlock DNA potential and self heal beyond aging and disease through energy, frequency, and consciousness. And today, our topic is going to be bioquantum evolution, the future of consciousness. Jules, I'm so excited to have you here. I am going to hand it over to you just in case I may have left anything out of your bio and what you would like to share. So go ahead and kick us off.
Thank you, Kelly. I always love our conversations, just how light and fun they are. And yeah, I feel like that kind of covered it. if- I guess we could look at what is bioquantum, and how I approach healing is on a quantum level. And so I use a lot of quantum biology and science, and then, of course, just years of being obsessed with consciousness all the way back to when I was 16. I definitely delved in psychedelics and learned to kind of master different levels of consciousness in that way until I found my first teacher, which was a Lakota medicine woman. And she taught me how to advance consciousness naturally by releasing DMT through different ceremonies and sweat lodges. And so my whole life has really been the quest of exploring what consciousness is and how we can use it not only to better our lives and to manifest our dreams, if you will, but to ascend consciousness through the body, and that our bodies are ready to ascend and be part of that process.
Oh, I love it. Yes. And let's talk even more about that because, like you said, you've been at the forefront of ascension and technology and quantum healing for decades, So I think that's amazing. So will you please tell us what is your current bioquantum approach and everything that that entails, and how is it different from like traditional consciousness work as compared to what you
Right.
do?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So, the way that I approach consciousness is on a DNA level. And first, what we look at is our experience of consciousness when we experience the body through that two-strand DNA, which is what we are experiencing as our biology when we're looking at basic science, and even kind of running even on an energetic level. We're still looking more at the two-strand DNA system. And when we start to turn on the other 10 strands of DNA, we start to see more of what you start to study in quantum biology. But of course, that's still only part of the whole. And so when I'm exploring consciousness, the first thing that we look at is, what is the DNA? What does it become when we have all 12 strands activated? And it really does become what I call a divine operating system, or we become divine molecular technology. we become the most advanced technology that there is, because that technology is run through or by, if you will, a very specific frequency. And that frequency can be measured at 963 hertz, which is also source frequency. And that frequency becomes an expression of who we are on an innate level. And so I think it's important to look at what makes that different, because the way that we operate both consciously and on a biological level is that we are always scanning our environment to be told what we are or to identify in. And our cells do the exact same thing. So if you look at Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, you'll see that the cells observe the environment, and that can be our thoughts, that can be what we eat, the environment which we live in, is all affecting what we call epigenetics. And over time, epigenetics can be turned on because our environment is signaling something within over a a repeated period of time, and an epigenetic gets turned on, and that's when we start aging, disease, and we have these different things show up. Well, there's consciousness in that. I mean, we can even go as far as to say that aging is a disease of consciousness. There's actually no biological reason that we age. It's an epigenetic that gets turned on. So when we start to turn the cell into moving from the 2 strand where it's observing its environment and moving over to the 12 strand, it actually begins to identify in source frequency or as source frequency. And at that point, there's no need to observe the environment anymore, because it has everything it needs within its system. And so it's a space of, you could say, wholeness. It holds the unified field, the quantum field. And all of a sudden, the cell moves from observing to expressing that frequency of source out into our environment. And so when we learn to hold our consciousness in that frequency, we are actually co creating a reality and the experience of our body through the frequency of source, instead of an observed state that is really in distortion or the illusion of the matrix.
Oh, I'm like, I love that. That is so deep. So as you're talking about that, you know what it what popped to mind was, I've been hearing a lot of things about like the new human and us as we start to move into the new world, we will start like more like transforming or changing into the new human. Is this a connection to that?
Yeah,
Or I
yeah,
love it.
definitely. Yeah, and when we start to move into the new human, the quantum human, whatever you want to call it, we all have our words, and we start to experience more our body more multidimensionally. And what that would look like consciously would be, we start to experience intuition at a high level. So we're starting to see, for instance, we start to see before we see, or we hear before we hear, because we're actually holding our consciousness in the multidimensional body versus just through our five senses.
Um, that is so cool because I mean I'm a little bit of a research nerd, but like I know like a little bit of everything. That's the best way that I can describe it. But when you curiosity, and I just want your opinion, when you talk about moving from the 2 strand into the 12 strand, is there a correlation to that in which the scientists call junk DNA?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, so the way that the proton, I mean, if we wanted to go into the science of this a little bit, but the way that the proteins are like working in there, they're looking at it and they're seeing, well, nothing's really happening. And I think even on a physical level, a little bit is happening. But what they're not seeing is what we can't see. And that is that because those strands are already multidimensional, we're not going to see what they're doing in this dimension. And that's why we need to tap into it with our consciousness so that we can receive the information of what it's doing beyond what can be studied.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I love it. Cause I read about it and I'm like, I really feel like that is our I'm gonna call us aliens. We're all aliens. I'm like, I feel like this is our alien, like our alien DNA that, when you and because like I've like gone way back in history, like when the Anunnaki and everything has come and like our DNA was manipulated. And so I was like, it may have been manipulated, but it doesn't mean that it went away. And so it sounds like, and this could be just entirely my own interpretation, that that's what we're talking about. And I'm like, and you are working on, or you have been working on, is helping people really activate and really bring that DNA back to us. Is
Yeah,
or I not back to us, but you know what I mean. Like we're
remembering.
yes, yes, thank you. That is a much better word. Yeah. So interesting. I really love it. So can you just, and maybe you explain this, but maybe I just want to learn a little bit more. What so because we always talk about consciousness and raising our frequency to get into like tap into that consciousness, but yours is really on a on a biological level, it sounds like. And I always love when science and spirituality come together because I feel like
Definitely.
it kind of bridges that in between gap. I feel like I'm probably gonna get hate mail for this, but I feel like people who understand spiritualism, because we have science and then it's kind of like we have what scientists kind of throw away as an idea because they don't quote unquote have proof. But I
Mhm.
feel like people who are into spiritualism, like we are that bridge between that. And it sounds like you do a lot of work in that area.
Yes,
Oh,
I would agree. I think scientists, because of the way they've been taught, and I'm going to say not all scientists, but a lot of them, that's how they've been taught is like, if unless there's proof, it's not real. And so they are very left brain proof oriented. But at the same time, a lot of them are recognizing that even things that they have proven are being proven wrong. And so it kind of opens up this space in how the more that we advance in our technology and the more we're able to study more on a quantum level, it starts to open up of like, oh, okay, so everything that we thought we had as proof is only part of the equation. And I think that's when spiritualism comes in, is because to actually access the next level of truth, we have to do it through, if you want to say consciousness, or the ability to use consciousness as a tool to tap into the information of the quantum field that we don't have instruments to measure.
which is so amazing to me and I love it. I really do love it. Okay, so as we're talking about this, can we talk a little bit more about like spiritual growth? So,
Yeah.
a lot of times I have experience where people have come to me to work with me and they're like, I just feel like I'm stuck. Like I hit this plateau and I'm not going anywhere. So I'm curious from your perspective, what do you feel are kind of the unseen limitations that are keeping people stuck? And
Mhm.
how is it that which you do really helps them unlock that next level?
This is one of my favorite questions because really, I mean, what I hear in what you're saying is when we hit something is when we're trying to manifest something or create something in our lives, and we hit the ceiling, if you will, and it kind of stops. And there's actually a reason for that. And the reason is, first of all, where we're holding consciousness. So going back to where we started, is, are we holding it in the field, or what the source field, or that frequency? Because our DNA is holding the frequency of source, it's transcribed, we always have somewhere for our consciousness to go that never fluctuates. It's always 963. And that frequency is connected to the quantum field, where everything we would ever need to know is there. All we have to do is learn how to access that. And that's when we start to look at, well, how am I using consciousness? Because most of us use consciousness as a form of identity. Once we become aware of something, we identify in it, and then we try to create within what was identified. But that's actually not how consciousness was meant to be used. It was meant to be used as an attuning tool. So when we are hitting a ceiling, we know we just got locked into an identity of a frequency that's of the matrix. So all of the matrix has particle waves that have frequency. And so when we bring our consciousness and we go put it out into those particle waves, and we're trying to manipulate those waves within the matrix, we're just going to get more waves, and it's trying to change form with form, and eventually it's going to solidify, and then we're going to hit that ceiling because we're in the wrong place. We're supposed to be manifesting from that one frequency. That's all that is. So when we learn to go in and then attune to the intelligence of that's transcribed in our DNA, all of a sudden we're co-creating by attuning to that intelligence, and we can do things like, well, what's my next step? Or activate the frequency of my next. And then all of a sudden, our DNA turns on that specific frequency, and it moves out into the illusion, the matrix, the form, if you will. And it actually changes form through the quantum field as the quantum field. So you're not manipulating frequencies that are constantly fluctuating and moving around. You're informing it through the one frequency that is always stabilized, or it already has happened within that frequency. So it's just a different way of using consciousness. So another way of saying that is, what's operating our consciousness? Is it a program, our programmed reality, the programmed body, the programmed mind, what we're seeing, what we're trying to manifest, and then we're looking for outcome? Or are we bringing our consciousness and attuning it to that frequency of source and letting that frequency inform our consciousness? And that's when we move into the fourth level of consciousness and we begin to listen and do. And then eventually we'll move to the the fifth level of consciousness, and we'll actually become that intelligence. And that's the new human experience, is when we no longer are using consciousness to reach the goal of who we already are. We just become who we are. And that is source intelligence.
Oh, that is amazing. I'm like, you've definitely caught my attention. So, I can we explore this a little bit more because I actually have some very I'm very curious about some stuff. So, when we talk about manifesting, and I've experienced this when I've also worked with people when I feel stuck, we
Mhm.
always talk about like, well, I say we, and I'm using that as general, but like we're always talking about like connecting, like feel that frequency that you want to connect to. So if I'm understanding you right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if we were to do that, then we're really still reaching out into the matrix, which is why it's like it's not manifesting, right? So, and maybe I'm just restating what you said, but it sounds like so we go in, and if we can connect to that 963 hertz, then we can, like you said, inform or send that message out into the matrix because it is a stabilized
Yes.
frequency. Is that correct? Did I understand you right?
Yeah. So the way,
Okay.
yes. So the way you can see it is, you can see it like the frequency that you have in your DNA is stabilized. It
Mhm.
doesn't move, it's always the same, and no matter what you wanna experience is in that frequency, and it will never change, right? So if you wanna go to, "I wanna be a master at golfing," you tap into that frequency and you become a master at golfing, but it's already there. You're not actually going anywhere. You're just moving into the experience of the quantum field, or in the frequency of source, the source field, however it works for you. Or you're out in a programmed reality where everything is fluctuating and it's moving and it's never stabilized, because it's just well, because consciousness. So depending on where you're hitting all of those waves with your consciousness is going to be the experience. And that, so when you say, oh, just resonate with that frequency, you're going out to resonate with one of those frequencies. Well, what's going to happen is you may hit it and you may ride that wave for a little while, but because that's not your innate being, eventually your consciousness is going to start to hit all of those little static waves because it's not meant to be experienced in that way. And so we hit a wave so that why? Well, because the universe is going to teach us to eventually go in and ascend, right? And so it's not meant to be mastered. It's meant to be experienced from the other side. So you can say what's trying to be mastered is knowing which place that you're in. We
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to master form because that's not only two of 12. Right? We master it by becoming 12 and experiencing it multidimensionally. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, I'm totally following what you're saying. And I love it. So can I like I have another question. Sorry, here's my curiosity of what I want to know. So one of the things I do every morning is like I actually can hear frequency. I hear it all the time, and I always tell people, I'm all, it fluctuate the frequency within my home definitely fluctuates within the frequency when like I go to Walmart or something, right? So one of the things that I often do as part of like my kind of like my morning routine or like my meditation is I oftentimes tune into I'll say the collective frequency.
Mhm,
So, and I can hear it because you're right. It is a bunch of waves and it's actually sounds very chaotic most of the time. Like there are some moments where I can feel it being like a little bit peaceful. So
mhm.
it's flowing a little bit better, but there is a lot of different waves that are within that. So I totally understand what you're saying in that. But now that I'm thinking about it, and if we're talking about doing like the two strand DNA and you go in to connect with I'll say those frequencies of the collective.
Mhm,
Okay, I'm all follow me here. Because we all came here to have our own unique experience. We did not come here for all of us to have the same experience. Like my experience will be way different than your unique experience and everybody that is on this call.
mhm,
That's one of the reasons why we're here is because of our own uniqueness that we contribute to the growth and expansion of the planet, right? So when I say this and we go out into the matrix and like let's say we do connect with one of those waves, realistically we're not like you said, we have to go inside for our uniqueness, right? I'm totally weaving the web right here. But if we go in and we connect out into the matrix, we're not even connecting with a frequency that is our own. Like as an example, I could go and connect with your frequency, which makes sense why it would never align to me because that's not my frequency ever. Does that am I making sense what I'm
yeah.
saying or
It is, but I'm actually gonna just piggyback on that just
Okay.
a little bit, because I think it's important to know that what we call our unique experience is an observed experience that we placed an identity on.
Yeah.
And when we start to move and we start to attune our consciousness into this other space, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have unique experiences. We will, and we'll share them because that's where we are. But when we all have all 12 strand DNAs like activated, we are no longer going to be identifying as an individual. We're going to be identifying as a space of unity. And so those words of like, well, I'm here to do this and I'm here to do that and I'm going to manifest this, all of that goes away. Like that's just part of the ascension process because part of identity is like we want to learn to shift our identity until we move past identity altogether because identity is form.
Mhm.
right? And we're moving to a space where we are just an expression of pure source intelligence. Like God, like if you think divine, or it's that like, I am the divine and I am shining, and today I'm going to manifest this. It's just a pure frequency. And then the experience of that frequency is so beyond what our understanding is. So, yes, what you're saying is true, but I also think it's important to show that it's not always going to be true. There's going to be a time where we are all resonating in a frequency and we're coexisting, not in separation. And so your thought is my thought, and it's the divine thought.
Yes. So that is truly oneness. Am I understanding correctly?
True. Like when we get to a space, and that's what I call the fifth level of consciousness, is we aren't conscious anymore. Consciousness is what we use to reach the frequency of 963. But once our consciousness actually hits that frequency and we stabilize there, there's no reason for consciousness anymore. Because if you say, I am divine, you're
Mhm.
still in separation, you're still identifying. So, what happens is that when our consciousness fully merges with the intelligence of source, through our body, right? Because that's what we get to experience when we're here. We aren't conscious. We're just divine intelligence. And that's kind of hard to even fathom what that would look like. But we aren't identifying because consciousness is just the tool. Once the tool is mastered, we are divine intelligence.
Oh, I love it. I'm following exactly what you're saying. And I'm very excited that we are having this conversation because it literally has opened up a whole nother door. Like you are answering questions that I inside have been having, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So I always love perfect timing, right? Oh, I love it. Okay. Um I'm like, this is amazing. My mind is like and I am totally and completely expanding. So thank you for that. So much gratitude. I absolutely love it. Okay, so I have another question for you, and then we're gonna shift to because you want to do a summer solstice activation. So we definitely want to do that, and we want to get questions from the audience. But one more question to pick your brain a little bit. So you like and I think I've seen this on your on posts that you have posted, and I want to say I was gonna say recently, but I kind of seen the flow of it. But you talk about like being like the living technology,
Mm.
right? And again, we're talking about new earth consciousness. So, and it sounds like we may have covered some of this already, but can you share what that true, like, what does that truly mean? Like, how does someone begin to really embody that level of divine architecture and actually embody it in our everyday lives, like really be it.
Absolutely. And it is kind of everything that we've been talking about. So the first step would be acknowledging that we're more than just the body. There's actually we have five, well, what I teach in my teaching. I'm not going to say this is the only thing that ever is, but we have five levels of consciousness that are connected to five bodies of our, like how we experience our physical body. And then we actually have five levels of the light body, and they all interconnect. And so when we know where our consciousness is, and sometimes we're going to know that by what our body feels like or how we're experiencing our body. And it will always tell us exactly where we are. So when we start to ask to have the experience of our divine technology, and we can start having that experience by asking for it, and then having the tools of knowing how to navigate that technology with consciousness. So we literally learn to operate the operating system until the operating system operates us. And that sounds like, whoa, what the heck? But it's true, because in the beginning, it will be a co creation between the intelligence that's turning on and creating this higher operating system, which is the multidimensional body. When we start to experience our body as light, as frequency, and we're not so identified in what we're just experiencing on a physical level, we're going to start to open up with our intuition. And that is a gateway of consciousness to start to know what the intelligence is saying. And once the intelligence starts to run, it literally starts to create a grid system or the ascended body. And then we start to move our consciousness into that ascended body. And then we get to start to kind of co create and play with what reality is on a multidimensional level. And so we start to break through all of the illusions. So that's my passion, is teaching how to use consciousness as an attuning tool and how to learn to operate the operating system.
Oh, I love it. It sounds, I don't know if the word advanced is correct, but we often talk about like, and I do believe that, and I mean, we have that inside of us. So I understand that what I'm saying, it's kind of like no kidding, but like that we all have that intuitive ability. But it sounds like from what you're saying that it can, I don't know if it can be like if what you're meaning is like enhanced or intensified, then um then us just have I and I'm not downplaying this, but like just us having intuition. I hope like I
No,
feel
I
like
hear what you're saying.
okay,
Because
okay.
there's also levels of intuition too, right? Like you have to remember that intuition more on a physical level is going to feel way different than when we're putting our consciousness in that fifth body.
Mhm.
Intuition's going to be much different. Like we're never like at that the fourth and fifth level when we're in that space, intuition is going to be, well, for instance, you're going to see information without actually even seeing, because it's going to process so quickly that you're actually going to bypass the part of you that's actually seeing it, because you don't need to, because in the frequency of source you already know it before you know it, right? And so those little places are going to go so quickly that we almost aren't even aware that we're using our intuition. So that's like with the advanced human, right? Like everything you see in the movies is what we're becoming.
So I love it. So um so like I'm really loving what you're saying. I'm sorry I keep saying that because like I said, these are questions that I've been asking and wondering and like researching about. So when we talk about intuition, it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm clairvoyant or like I'm clairaudient. It speeds up so quickly that it's like you don't even know that you're using it. Is that what I'm kind of understanding you saying?
I mean, that would be when we start to get to the advanced human state. And until then, it may be that we're more clairaudient than we are all our clairs are going to be fully active. I'll give you an experience of what something that happened to me even today. So I was going to get a glass of water, and all of a sudden, it's like I almost tasted like a permanent marker in my mouth. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And then I saw my daughter at work, and she was using a permanent marker on something, like marking out things on a document. And then I could smell it. And so I had to go like, okay, well, why is this coming to me? And immediately she was thinking of you when she was doing that. And we connected. I got that information. And of course there wasn't. So what I did is I just texted her heart, and then I let it go. But that's just showing. So I had all these different things happening. I got the information I needed. I acted upon it, and then I let it go. But a lot of us would just ignore that, right? And sometimes it's worth ignoring. Not everything that we get is really important.
But well, and I think when it's important is really because you're right, we do get a lot of that stuff throughout the day. But I think if it really catches your attention or your awareness, to me, I like whenever that happens, I'm like, oh, there's something here, But, oh, I think that's amazing. Oh, okay. Well, I'm like, I'm sitting here looking at the time. I'm like, I could probably talk to you for several more hours about this to pick your brain. But I, I would really love for you to do your summer solstice activation with everyone. And then if there's any questions from the audience. I don't know if the audience is as curious as I am, but I would love to hear what questions they would have in regards to what you're sharing today. So I will hand it over to you to take away, and then we'll do audience questions.
Okay, beautiful. So I'll just invite everyone to shut your eyes, if you will. And if you like to place your hands on your heart, you're welcome to, or just in your lap, however is comfortable. And we're going to do a DNA activation through the solstice energy. So there is a lot of energy coming in. And so we're going to do what I call a three sun activation, because we are in the year of the nine, and the third sun is coming in right now, today. And it is holding that frequency of activating all 12 strand DNA. All right. So if you'd like to, let's just start by breathing in a white blue light, just allowing that light to trace along the brain and moving down to the base of your spine, and then just breathing it out. So, this light holds that frequency of source, and we're just attuning your spinal fluid to hold that frequency of source. It's beginning to speed up the molecules. You can just feel that light as it enters your heart space and begins to flow through your bloodstream. And feeling it begin to light up every cell, bringing the frequency of your body into a higher spin state. And then bringing that light to the center of your brain. Just bringing your consciousness to witness this tiny little white blue light, just focusing all of your thoughts, seeing that white blue light in the center of your brain. And now I want you to bring all of your thoughts into that tiny little light. And then you're going to get your consciousness and you're going to push that light out to encompass your entire mind, your physical brain, and just allowing that light to attune your mind, your brain to that frequency of 963, activating DMT or your divine molecular technology. Just allowing your consciousness to now have the experience. You're not trying to make anything happen, you're allowing it to happen. And now we'll move into the master cell that is holding the DNA of every cell of your body. And as you have the experience, we're going to connect in to your DNA and we're going to activate. So the first activation of the DNA is turning off that signal that wants to observe its environment, to receive information that's connected to the sun of the matrix. And just feeling the DNA as it dissolves the program of observation of the matrix. And then we'll activate the second sun, or the Christ sun, the Buddha sun. And just feeling the sun as it's in your DNA, as it begins to merge, as it fully merges and encompasses the sun of the matrix. This has already happened inside of you. It's happened to everyone in humanity. And it is already activated. And then this year, the year of the nine, and on this day of the summer solstice, the divine sun is here to encompass, to merge with the Christ sun. So just connecting into the frequencies of the flares, that energy that is activating, and just feeling that divine sun merging with the Christ sun, bringing consciousness into the intelligence of Source. So just feeling that as it begins to activate within your body, you're just having the experience, knowing that this solstice, this activation is already inside of you. You are informing reality, this intelligence within you, and how you're experiencing it consciously. And this intelligence of Source is attuning your consciousness to the experience of your divine being. And as it begins to turn on all 12 strands, feeling that energy as it moves into expression, you can see it like the sun is turning on inside of you and it is shining. And it's all you do is shine. And allowing that frequency to begin to create a system of intelligence, a divine technology, your ascended body. You may see it as blue lights that begin to shape the form, your crystalline form, knowing that this intelligence is creating or awakening your consciousness to the experience of your multidimensional body, your interdimensional body, your eternal state of being. And in this state, there's no time, there's no space, there's stillness. And within the stillness, everything you've ever wanted to know, to experience, or to witness is within this grid system. And as we activate the DNA today and we're connecting into the frequency of the solstice, feeling that divine sun fully activating, informing your consciousness with the intelligence of Source. If there is something that you would like to experience in this intelligence, just gently putting your intention in your heart space, that quantum heart space, and just noticing when you ask for your intention. Just feel in your body and feel a specific frequency begin to turn on. You're just allowing the frequency to activate. You're allowing it to come to you, come through you. And then tapping into that solstice energy as this frequency moves through your body and into reality, as the frequency of Source informs your consciousness, your body, and your reality. And just feeling what that feels like. Knowing that the sun, this divine sun, will continue to activate within your DNA for the rest of our linear year and the first part of next year. And that this next year can be a very powerful time to experience your divine self. And that this is only the beginning. And then as you're ready, you can just take in a deep breath. And then you can open your eyes.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Mm. I'd love to just, I wish we would have done this before the activation. I know a lot of you have had this experience, but I wanted to I do this on all my interviews because it's such a powerful way of knowing where you're holding your consciousness and we're experiencing the world. So I would love to just like follow this up and you will actually use it within this frequency that we just activated. So I want everyone to shut your eyes and I want you to imagine what you would like see the frequency of a sun. Just imagine what that frequency would be, or imagine the sun activating, if you will. And just notice what it feels like to imagine it. Just imagining the sun. And now I want you to, if you want to open your eyes and reset, you can, but go back in. And now I want you to ask that frequency of your divine self, the frequency of your DNA, to show you the activation of a sun. So now instead of imagining, you're allowing that frequency to activate and you're allowing that frequency to inform you, your consciousness. So you're just kind of hanging out and you're waiting for the frequency to happen. You're waiting for this information to come to you, the experience. So you keep your consciousness in a space of stillness, and then you're feeling the activation of the sun. So now that we're all activated, it might not have been a big difference because we're all like kind of in the field already, but really that is the difference between being in the third level of consciousness and having consciousness in the waves out in the matrix, or being in the stillness and allowing the information of source to actually inform consciousness through experience. And then that's the difference. So we should have done that before so that I would have told you to make sure you stay in the fourth level, but we never got there, but that's okay. We'll do it after.
No, that was a beautiful experience. Like I'm like, I haven't experienced anything like that before. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Ooh.
course.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, oh, sorry. I'm just sitting here just allowing to just to like to
I know
feel
it's
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I like well, and just in my observation, like what a big difference. Like I can feel the difference.
Mhm.
Oh, that's amazing. That's my word today is that it's amazing because that's how I feel.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Oh, Jules, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with everyone, with all of us.
Well,
Oh,
thank you for holding this space for us to get to such a beautiful frequency.
yeah, that was amazing. I'm all now I really want to know what the audience questions are after that.
Mm, mm,
Oh, are you ready to take some questions?
of course.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or even comments or anything that you want to share? If you do, you can use your little hand button on the Zoom, or if you raise your hand, I will try to see you. I'll go through the line that's up above, but um, or you can also put it in the chat, and I'm more than happy to read it to anyone. Oh, we've got one. Okay. So Jana is saying, I'm new to all of this. I've considered myself an atheist materialist for all my life and broke out of that less than a year ago.
Mm,
Most of what you say sounds like a foreign language to me.
mm,
I feel that it contains wisdom, but I can hardly access it. And then you talk just briefly about things that seem to be common knowledge to you, but that I've never heard before.
mm.
Okay, so here's some questions, and I love it. Thank you, Jana, for sharing this. Okay, so her first question is, what is the matrix?
So the matrix would be your materialism. It's anything that's already in form that can be studied, that can be proven. And the reason that we call it the matrix is because it is only what we can prove. And so if it's something that we can prove within a material world, we're missing out on all of the energetics or the quantum space that is beyond what we can actually study or prove, because our world is already multidimensional, and that multidimensionality has different levels of the experience of something. Like there's the experience of our cup, and I would say even science is proving that this cup is actually particles, and the reason that I'm able to hold it, and we know all the reasons why, but we're not seeing it that way, we're not observing it that way. And but this is what we're, so is this real? Or is it real on a particle level? Or is it real on the frequency of what those particles are holding? Or is it even beyond that? And that's what all we're talking about is like, okay, so if at one time we thought that this was all that was real,
Mhm.
right? And now science proved like, oh, no, actually it's particles and it's actually energy. And then like, oh, but that energy can actually be measured. And so like, which one of those is true? Well, they're all true. And then there's truth beyond that.
All right. I love that. And then her next question is, we're all aliens. And I realize I'm the one who said that. I don't know if you have any comments you want to make on that, but I'm like, I call this all aliens. I did. Um, do you?
Do you want to answer that question? I feel like
Sure,
you.
sure. I'm more than happy to answer it because the next one says Anunnaki. So if I mean, if you're okay if I answer those. Okay, so Gianna, as I'm going to say, as you start to explore and go deeper into this new path, which I have to say is super exciting. So I can't wait to see for you to discover what your truth is. But what I mean by aliens is that you will come to find, and I'm trying to put it in very simple form for you so that you understand, because there's a lot of information out there. And if the audience has any better way to explain it, please, please do. Um, you will come to find that oftentimes you may have heard the comment that we are made from stardust. You will start hearing the terms such as star seeds. You will hear about galactics such as like Pleiadians, Octurans, the Orions, the Sirians, the list goes on and on. So for us, when we take a step back and we look at us here on this planet, we are human beings. We are a form of an alien race. And so oftentimes we do not take that into consideration, which is also part of that separation of saying, oh, well, we're human and they're galactics or they're aliens. But the truth of the matter is that we are also aliens with that type of DNA, like that Jules has been talking about. So I may be my own personal opinion. I may not be explaining this very good, but we are aliens on a planet, just like the Palladians are quote unquote aliens on their planet, or the Andromedans in their galaxy on their planet. And as you begin, I'm telling you, as you begin to explore more, you will start to really learn these things because you will start to hear them in different, I'm all in different circles, but in this area. So to go into the Anunnaki were also a form of aliens that came and during quote unquote biblical times. And they were the ones, and I'm going to give you a book to read because when you read the beginning of this book, it'll explain a lot. But they were also the ones that had come to our planet. And long story short, I believe it was the Anunnaki that were looking like they were needing, the story goes that they were needing gold. And so our planet at the time had a lot of that because their planet needed that gold to be sustainable. They came here and they saw us, not in this form that we are today, but the Anunnaki ended up manipulating our DNA to basically manipulated us into becoming workers for them to bring this gold. The intent originally was not something that was meant to be negative, but as the story goes, and like I said, I'm going to give you a book to read, you will come to find that because of that manipulation, and they saw the way that our DNA had changed, that I'm gonna say all all the other galactics. I'm really putting this in quick form for you. That all of the galactics did see that us as the human race, that I'm going to say that transmutation actually made us very quote unquote like powerful humans or aliens. And so the more that you learn about it, we that is how became Homo sapiens. And so they were they're the manipulators of our DNA. So in that manipulation, a lot of our DNA that scientists refer to as junk DNA that Jules was talking about is that DNA that we turn on for those 12 strands. So that was my shortened version. If anybody else has more to add about us being aliens or the Anunnaki, please feel free to share because this very much is an open forum for us to learn. But I really tried to condense it down very quickly for you. The book that you would want, and I'll put it in the chat for you. It's called I think it's called Telos. Yeah, it's called Telos. And it talks a lot about like the Lemurians and I won't get into all the details of the book. You'll have to read it, but it does describe in the beginning, it kind of gives you a crash course on that. Um, yeah, and I mean, I'll be happy to give you other resources as well, but I hopefully that helped. Did I do a good job? I don't know how well I did in explaining that, but um, there's so much to once you open this door to discover that it's gonna blow your mind, but it will all come together for you and how your truth is. So I don't want to be general, but we all have our own truth in the way that we see and experience this. But you will definitely find yours, but it's just some stuff for you to look into. I hope I did a good job. Okay.
I love that. I think I
Oh,
would just like to back that up, Kelly, with I love how you keep saying, like, is this my truth? And I think that's one thing that a lot of us are starting to recognize is what does it feel like when I'm in my truth? Right. And I think that's where we should all go because there's a lot out there. Okay. There's a lot out there. And not all of it is going to feel true. And because we're so programmed to consume, and a lot of times we're consuming things that aren't necessarily our truth. And so in those moments is that's the first thing that I ask is instead of listening to the words, I listen to the frequency. And I'll know, is this my truth? Is this true for me? Is it important for me to hear this? And I'm going to tell you 1% or less is it for me to hear. And this is the reason why, is because in this transition, we are starting to go within. And in that, the stillness is informed by an intelligence where we don't need to go out and listen anymore. And that's so I'm just going to leave it at that. I think knowing what is true to the heart space and what that feels like is very empowering because it makes our world very, very clean. When we're attaching and we're searching for the truth, is when we get locked up in the matrix and we start looping and from one truth to the next truth to the next truth to the next truth. The real truth is whether or not that truth meter is going ding. And then just knowing that just because you heard a truth doesn't mean what they said was true. It meant that it activated something true that was inside of you. And it's not to attach to what you heard and make it your truth. It's to keep listening to what's inside because it activated that truth in you. And it's for you to explore what that is on a personal level. Okay, that was a lecture. I'm sorry.
It was great because, that is what our truth is. And I agree with you. Anytime that I hear something, I always bring it inside and say, how do I feel about this? How do I resonate with this? And there are some things where I'm just like, no. That's not gonna work for me. But you're absolutely right. I can feel it activating something, but that's where, like, I'm a very curious person anyways. Like, I think I mentioned it, I'm a research nerd. Like, I love to research stuff that is true for me, because not everything that I research is my truth. It's just information that gets me closer to what the purity of my truth is. So I thank you. I think that you said that was very well said. And yeah, and Gianna, we're all here rooting you on because we want you to really step in and know your truth. So um these questions that you're asking are really good because that's what you're getting to, is what your truth is. So she still have some more questions. I love it. Um the next one was DNA manipulation, but I think we may have answered that. I'm telling you, read that book Telos, and in the beginning it will help you kind of understand that a little bit more. Um when it talks about DNA manipulation, but I mean, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. And then she wants to know matrix son, Christ son, divine son. So I'm guessing she's wanting to know the difference in those, or maybe what they mean.
Yeah, so this is it's something that was in my book way back in I think like 2016. So what I was shown is that the sun of the matrix, the sun that we see in the sky, is the programmed sun, which makes sense because we're looking at it's in the matrix, right? And then in 2012 the Christ sun began to merge with that sun, and it was the starting to activate humanity and awaken humanity. All of this is happening actually inside of us. Like, that's what we have to remember, is where is our consciousness. Well, right now in the year of the nine, we are moving into the divine sun. And so the divine sun it's going to take more than a year. But why this year is so important with the Son of God, or the divine sun merging with the Christ sun, is that we have an opportunity. Because if you look at the way numerology works, is that you go 1 through 9 and then you go back to the one. But something can actually happen, and that's why knowing that, just saying, "Oh, I am divine, I'm divine," and identifying on that isn't that's not it. It's to go beyond that and actually become the divine beyond consciousness, and that's the fifth level that I was talking about. And that doesn't mean that we all have to move into the fifth level to actually not have to repeat the karmic cycle of the 1 through 9, but the observation of knowing that that is true on a level where we stop going outside of ourselves to identify who we are, and we start turning it inside out, and we start to move into the expression of that, we actually move from the 9 to the 11. So that's when the reflection of divine, and we start to see reality as a reflection of divine, it dissolves the illusion, and we move into the 11, which is Christ consciousness, and then the 22 and 33. So in numerology, if you actually really study it from the intelligence that's inside of you, it is showing you exactly how to ascend, because there are 12 codes, 1 through 9, and then we have 11, 22, 33. It's all within the system of the numerology. It's already right there. And when we learn to read it on a DNA level, we see that these frequencies are actually inside of us.
Beautiful.
That was a lot. Sorry.
No, that was I no, that was very good. I always love the extra information, and because it allows me to kind of have that support. Okay.
Mm.
So, so, um, that was all of her questions. I'm so glad. Thank you for taking the time to answer all of them. That the Jana, great questions. Thank you so much for wanting to share and ask those questions. So thank you so much. I hope that we were able to answer them for you to the best that we can, but I'm going to go back to what I originally said. Just start diving in and just exploring, and then I'm going to support again what Jules says about what your truth is versus what everybody else's truth is. So you really have to, I'm going to tell you, you'll really start attuning to who you are when you say, yes, this feels good to me. No, this does not. So don't hold on to the no, this does not, because it's just not your truth, and there is nothing wrong with that. So, woo. Okay. So we have another question from Judy. Judy, do you want to come off mute and go ahead and ask?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, hi, Jules. I don't even really know what it is yet. I just know when my heart beats like this and being in your presence, Jules, and thank you, Kelly. I'm like, I'm not going to let this pass without getting some more from her. So I've done Jules's BioQuantum, the one that was through John Burgos. So I'm actually doing that now, but I wasn't able to get on a lot of the lives, but I'm watching them and everything. But so where I am right now, and I'm just going to let this flow from my consciousness. And I just took a group up to Mount Shasta. I do retreats and different things. And this group of women, we went up to Mount Shasta, and through where I've been in the last little bit, and then through your work, there was absolutely nothing I had to do. Like there was this template of fluid, unconditional love. Like I had 15 pages that my ego wanted to like remember that I would maybe do some of that stuff, but I actually did none of it. It was so in the moment. And, it was that particular group of women that were in that and that beautiful vortex of Mount Shasta. So anyway, and this is my life is going like this with a lot that I'm doing, and I'm bringing through a launch for parenting, soulful parenting. So my question is like where I find myself going back into the lower consciousness, third level, and trying hard again. And it's this new launch thing, and I'm making a move, so it's financial stuff like that. And I'm just like wanting to ask in your presence that like, and I had what of your tools, the ORMS, what would you suggest at this place? Because I feel sometimes I'm so much on the flow, and then I hit that wall where I'm trying again. And it often has to do, especially now, because there's a lot that I'm going to need a lot of extra money for. So it's that abundance, prosperity, fluid part. So
Uh, so yes, I love this. So you have, I think like when we experience something like this where we're in manifestation of something and then we kind of like move out of the flow, we're actually not moving out of the flow. All that's happening is that like we're in a reset. So in the reset, sometimes we just have to be still for a little while and allow our consciousness to actually hit the frequency of where we're actually going. And there can be an attuning process in that. And so the biggest thing is just listen for the divine yeses and divine nos. And knowing what that feels like is everything, and just knowing that I'm still no even in this space, and even though my ego wants to be doing something and it wants the evidence and all of that, I'm going to keep going in and attuning. And it could be that every morning it's just like, okay, what's my next right step? And if you're not given one, that's your next right step, right? It's like, oh, it's just to be still. It's just to be still. And of course, we don't necessarily love that. I get you, girl. I'm the same way. But it's a discipline, right? It's a discipline to wait for the divine yeses and not to go searching for them, but
mm.
to attune to them. And sometimes we just need to allow ourselves to just have a good time, right? So it's like, oh, okay, there's a free concert down the road. I'm gonna just go. And a lot of times it'll hit us in those opportunities where we're least expecting it. But when we're just sitting there and it's like it's just interrupting that flow, because sometimes the flow is no flow until it flows.
Thank you. Listen, inform me, listen.
Yeah. And just know that when you feel like nothing's happening, there's a lot happening.
Mm,
And that's why also just a fine-tuning consciousness in that stillness. What you're going to find is that you do actually start to tap in to what is happening, and it's going to shock you. You're like, oh, okay, so I needed to override this thing that is it's kind of like not even related. So there may be things of rewiring your nervous system to a
mm,
higher frequency. And then all of a sudden you learn how to do that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, because like a year from now, when you're working with a parent, you're teaching them that because that's what you needed to learn. And so we don't always know
mm,
why we're having to ascend all these different spaces. It may not make sense. So just attune your consciousness, go into the stillness. What do you want to show me? Where am I going? And then we wait. We let the sunflower exercise come in and we allow it to show us what it is. And sometimes it'll be in the moment, and then other times it'll be in a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever it is.
mhm. Oh, thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Judy, for that question. Okay, I know that I'm just gonna ask, does anybody else have any questions? Because I know that we're running over, and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. And there's a couple more things that I also want to mention in regards for Jules that I want her to share with you guys. But just to check, does anybody have any more questions, comments? All right, Jules, you have a book that's coming out.
Yes, so July 1st is going to be our activation day. So we are going to have the Kindle version 97 cents. And we're going to do a live activation. So if you go to becomingbioquantum.com and you could just go to the events page, you'll see the activation, the time and everything. I think it's at 5 o'clock Eastern time, maybe 4 o'clock. I can't remember. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to activate the 9 and the 7. So every time that I'm going to set up the scalar frequency through the DMT codes so that every time somebody buys one, that we're releasing that frequency from the DNA into the field for global awakening. So the 9 represents the divine is actually seen. So the matrix becomes the frequency of source, that the 9 that we're needing to move into the 11. And then the 7 is the ability to hold that and receive the information of the divine so that you can stay in that fourth level of consciousness and start to co-create heaven on earth. So that'll be our global awakening activation that we're doing on July 1st. And it'll be part of, obviously, the release of the book as well.
And can you share with us, or are you, is it kind of like we're leaving it as like a teaser, the name of the book?
Oh yeah, no, it's Becoming BioQuantum. It's part 1, Activate Cell Ascension. And so it's kind of an overview of the 5 levels of consciousness. And we're also on that same day, it will be a workbook that goes with it. So there's a workbook that you can read a chapter, and then you can actually go and master the consciousness of what you just read about. So it comes with a workbook as well. So we kind of have it all packaged, and it's something that you can experience, or you can just read it and not do the workbook. But I recommend doing it with the workbook because you're going to get a lot more out of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's huge. So, July 1st, everyone, 97 cents. I'm like, how can you say no? Right? Oh, and then, okay. And then lastly, you so graciously donated a donation gift for us to offer everyone else. Again, it is a donation gift. Everything that you donate, 100% goes to the SheRises Foundation, just so that we can I just want to empower women to just step into their leadership, whatever that looks like for them. So for each donation, please know that my heart truly has so much gratitude when I see that come in. No joke, like every time I see something, it literally makes me want to start to tear up because, you know, part of what we do is from our heart and it's to give back. So that's my donation plug for the good causes that we're trying to support. But anyways, Jules, you are the gift that you're giving is manifest through the fifth dimension. Would you like to kind of give a little bit more of an explanation of
Yeah,
that?
it's a really fun, I guess, course, if you will, but it kind of starts to tap into how to manifest through the operating system, and so you obviously learn the sunflower or the sun exercise that we did of knowing the difference between imagination or trying to create within the matrix and what it feels like to move into the fourth level of consciousness, which is tapping into more fifth dimensional way of so it teaches you how to do it. You're activating the DNA with specific codes, and yeah, you just learn to manifest from outside of programming, and it's a fun way of doing it because you're doing it through the operating system.
I love it. So if you enjoyed our conversation today, or if you enjoyed Jules and you want to experience her some more, please click on her donation link. It's, you know, the donations start at $5. So feel whatever is in your heart to donate. But definitely get it. And then finally, Jules, there's one more question in the chat. Jennifer would like to know if the Kindle version will have the workbook too.
Yes, it'll come out. I think actually the workbook, I think, is probably going to start with just the Kindle version because we are still laying out the pages for more of the physical book. So that will probably come like maybe a week later, but it'll be on Kindle because we're ready to launch that.
Awesome. And then Julie, to answer your question, you can find the link. So if you go to SheRises, Amplify, and Thrive.com and you click on the calendar of speakers, when you scroll down, you will see Jules. You'll see her, Emily, you'll see her beautiful face. Click on view event and all of the information will be in there. Jules, you and I talked about the information for the book. I will also include that in there so that everybody has it. But the donation link and everything will be in there. And then even if you want to catch the replay, if you give me about an hour, I will have the replay and everything back up like in her speaker center for you. So you can also catch the replay. So everything will be in her little center for all of you guys to access. But Jules, this has been so much fun. I'm gonna tell you, my mind is just like like I have so much going on. It's amazing. And I always love when I walk away feeling like that because I know that there's something that has been activated in me. So thank you so much for sharing your time, your messaging, your information, and just you, because you're very radiant and beautiful. So from the inside out. So thank you so much. Huge thank you to everybody that was on this call and to everybody that will catch the replay. I have so much love and gratitude for all of you. Thank you so much for being part of this and just really helping us be able to just get the message out. Just share some wisdom with the entire world. So a huge thank you to all of you. And you know what? Until next time, everyone, I'll see all of you again next week. So have a good rest of your weekend. And until next week, everyone, thank you so much again for being here.